All right. Y'all ready for some late night game development, coding, etc.? Refactor, new microphone. Oof. Let's see what I can get done before I get interrupted. All right, move OBS to other screen. I had a Asmon Gold video that I was playing. Um, I could start it from where it's at and then respond to it while I'm coding. What am I doing today first? Like, let me organize my thoughts. Uh, First of all, what we have mostly works, but at the end of the last video, I mentioned that there's two unnecessary time steps that I really should consider eliminating in order to make this kind of a bit more smooth. And then also take a look at adjusting how and where certain animations trigger and how they process in order to properly synchronize with the frame by frame loop, etc., whatever. Um, but I also wanted to ramble a little bit about like what I feel is the virtue of building this shit from as close to scratch as I can get without like rewriting or like writing my own fucking graphics library underneath the hood, because writing a graphics library wasn't the point, and that's why I'm not taking it that deep, right? Like there's people out there who do that, but not exactly what my intention was going into this thing. The intention is to make a dungeon crawler, but we also want to make a dungeon crawler that looks good, right? Like I've demonstrated in previous videos that it's actually pretty easy to get your own ASCII terminal roguelike rolling. I've done that. I've got like code on GitHub where it's all fucking there, right? So at the end of the day, I want to make something really that's more like palatable to the masses, right? So at the same time, as much as I want to make a game, I don't want to conform myself to existing tools, because as a child, I learned how to program, I learned how to write code, I learned how to think in text. And that's one of the reasons I really don't like IDEs, right? You might even say that I hate IDEs. Why is this? I have experience with IDEs. I used to get paid by corporate entities to do iOS development, right? And where was I going with that? Um, IDEs fucking suck. Xcode is dog shit trash. I fucking hate it. Um, that said, I'm very grateful that during my time as an iOS developer, I made extensive use of the Xvim plugin. And at the beginning of my journey, I spent 2 weeks learning Vim, which is the reason I still use NeoVim today. Uh, if my professor who signed my diploma had let me know that I could remap, excuse me, if he had let me know that I could remap JKL semicolon to ASDF or whatever on the left hand side, like I would have used Vim in college too. But because I was unaware of that level of configurability, because the person espousing it was espousing it from a right-hander perspective, and he wasn't aware of my disability until much later. So, I hope that dude's still alive, because honestly, he was a really fucking great professor, super elite hacker from like way back in the day, right? Like, dude signed my diploma, said I was good enough to be a bachelor's of computer science, right? And also one of the men in my life that I have respected the most. Not simply for giving me the passing, mark, but also for his own knowledge and what I learned through him. Because I actually took fucking 4 classes with this guy. Anyway, a lot of what I learned how to do here, I learned because of that dude. So shout outs to my alma mater and the head of the department at the time of my graduation. Because I took 4 classes with that dude. I fucking loved every single one of them. And a lot of my core skills and code writing ability was forged during that time. And I still retain it to this day. And I write in C because it is the language that I enjoy the most. Now, enough bullshitting. I'm out of fucking coffee. God damn it. Y'all like this jug? Oops. Okay, that's right. I was trying to do this. You like this jug? Okay. Thank fucking God I am editing this shit. Because there's going to be some dead space while I think. Shoutouts to Katie in live, though. That shit is fucking amazing. First of all, does this compile? Okay, so it runs. We're good. Okay, so as an example of what I was talking about, the time step is off here. Notice the lock is set to 60, so the action should process in 60 seconds, but because current action is set to -1, I press right, it cycles through -1 first before iterating to the next one, right? Let's take a look at process turn alt. So I'm trying to skip past -1. And I'm also trying to skip past the case where current action is greater than action count, right? So in the very beginning, we set current action to -1, but this is like to indicate that we have not yet begun processing the action loop. So if it's -1 and we have input a move and we start processing actions, we get to this line. Currently, we're incrementing the current action, but then we return out of the function. What if instead we increment current action, which skips 0, by the way, right? If current action is -1, we set it to 1. So one thing we could do here is set it to 1 as well. Instead, I should say. So in this case, it will so we'll start at -1 when the game begins, but after the first time we iterate through the action loop, it'll be at 1 for the beginning again. And we're doing this because Lua is weird and decides that it wants to count from 1, or rather prefers it. You can kind of like force it into like doing things starting from 0, but for sake of picking up Lua, I'm trying to make a bridge between the paradigms of C and Lua counting style. Let's see how this works. Uh-oh. So the first time I inputted a command, it actually skipped it entirely. But it is doing the first action immediately, which is good. But it's not actually executing the first action until it iterates to the next item, which isn't quite what I want. Because the first time we increment, it might be greater than action count before we actually add that item in. But okay, so this would probably be why we're ending up skipping, because we're actually supposed to be handling this part in increment action. So It's like we're doing that right here-ish, but we're not like clearing stuff here. We're just resetting current action. So the first time that we process turn, if current action is greater than or equal to, because we have to deal with the +1 situation. Previously I was like doing it C style, but using an offset by 1. Now I'm actually attempting to start at 1, which naturally affects how you process the Boolean expression that you use to check if you're, at the end of the loop, right? Normally you would use something like, for int I equals 0, I less than 10, I plus plus, right? Like, 0 through 9. Very straightforward. But it can be a little bit brain warpy to, when you've been doing that for like 25 fucking years, change the style up all of a sudden so that you're thinking in terms of, oh, so instead of 0 through 9, I'm actually doing 1 through 10, right? But the implication is that in Lua, like for instance, you create a new table, you start iterating indices, you start from 1. So as an example of this, action types right here, right? Like I've actually made an effort here to do it Lua style because this is actually Lua. And over in the corresponding c.h file, here too, I'm using an enum, but I am enumerating starting with 1. So I try to keep it like 1-to-1 there, right? And this should, over time, ease the cognitive burden of having to change back and forth between these two systems. It's like having to like start thinking in Celsius versus Fahrenheit, right? That's how I think about it. Like I'm just a dumb American, I don't think in kilometers. I think in miles. I think in feet. Fucking King Standard. Even though we separated from England a long time ago, so what the fuck ever, right? But this may not be correct here. If current action greater than or equal to action count, libgame lua clear actions, libgame increment current action. So the whole point of the clear actions thing, and actually we should never actually be at this point. So I'm going to turn this off for a moment. So we're actually in the very beginning doing this first increment to set it to 1, right? And then once it's actually set, then process turn action would trigger, and then we increment the current action. So let's try this out. Whoa, what's up with the delayed? Oh, why are we? Oh, it's not clear. Oh, we're not clearing anymore. Oh, shit. Oh, and yeah, another thing too. we're never resetting current action at this point. Like we're incrementing it here, which updates it in the Lua game state, but we never actually update the local variable, which in order to do that, we would have to make this not a constant anymore. So for instance, but at the same time, we'd be returning at this point. But and then clear actions, increment. So like for instance, okay. I don't think this is right, but I'm gonna try it anyway. Okay, so we got the first one out of the way. Something's not working right. That's weird. Okay. That's definitely not right. It would be a lot easier if perhaps instead of starting from -1, we start from 1 and just skip like the whole step entirely. Like it's like, in the very beginning, like you input move down, you have action count of 1 and current action is 1. So so we'll never deal with this again, but we're gonna have to update increment current action to not do -1 stuff anymore, which, yeah, we did that already. So man, I wish I had more. It's not too late. I mean, it's only fucking 1:20 in the morning. Process turn action. So if current action is greater than action count, so let's think of like just the base case, right? So we come in, we've got one action in our queue. We want to process that action and increment the current action. Increment current action should be the thing that handles this, I feel, possibly. So if current action is greater or equal to action count, like, for instance, because in the beginning, the current action will be 1, the action count will be 1, so current action will be equal to action count, so we would want to clear the actions and then not increment, but leave it at 1. So of G return current action, we get that, we get the action count. If current action is -1, which it shouldn't be, we set it to 1. Else if it's greater than action count, greater than or equal to action count, we will not only current action, but we will also libgame Lua clear actions, and then we're good. Otherwise, we just increment current action, which I believe is correct. And either way, we set the current action. I think this makes sense. So starting with just the entity. Oh, that felt good. But it's a little bit slow. It doesn't actually update the move until after the lock is done, which is interesting. Like, it does the animation for the walking correctly, but it should be doing the like the smooth move update like well before that. Like, why would it be waiting so long to do the smooth move? I wonder. This is going to be a pedantic detail and pretty annoying. So it's actually doing the action, and it's like doing a wait on the lock and then doing the action, which I find very weird. But we're a lot closer. Said a lot closer. This isn't really a whole lot. Let's hop back. All right, so process turn action, current increment current action. Make that const again. Okay, so let's think. I know why the animation for the player doesn't trigger at the correct time for the smooth move, and that's because I'm setting the animation at the time of the input. So here we're hard setting animation immediately after hitting the input key, which is why we get an immediate response from it, right? As an example of this, see the hero? I'm going to press down. Oh, he moved correctly there. Now, okay, so interesting. So he moved correctly on the first move. Oh, okay. So let's watch that again. That's correct. That's actually what we want to happen every time an action is processed. However, now things are going to be out of sync, right? Now watch this. Like, the lock is actually at 0, right? Oh, that's the bug. So after we finish through the time loop, the lock should not be 60 anymore. The 60 is for processing the individual action before we process the next action, right? So the first time, watch this. So that worked correctly. Now, that's not correct. So it's a very, very subtle bug. I need a little inspiration. Help me power up. Go Super Saiyan.
Last Wednesday, scientists published a small study with some pretty big implications. They found microplastics in 4 out of the 5 penis tissue samples that they studied. And yeah, 5 is a pretty small sample size. Like I said, this was a tiny study.
Okay. So remember that the original problem is that each each turn was appearing to like process immediately, like all one right after the other. And we wanted to introduce kind of like a time step so that each action occurs within a certain space so that we could sequence them, so that during one turn, hero takes his action, orc takes his action, every other entity takes their action, all one at a time. That's what we want. So in the very beginning, lock at 0, right? Now, the whole point, and maybe we don't even need the lock, but it might actually happen too fast. See, this is the whole problem. They're happening like virtually at the same time. We don't want that. The whole point that we introduced the lock in the first place was so that we would have actual duration between actions. So actually, okay, I think I see what to do, possibly. So actually, we need to make sure that g lock is 0 if this is true. Okay, this looks good so far. Okay, so it's actually queuing up actions. Interesting. Okay, this is good. This is good. This is much better. Nice. Oh, fucking sweet. Oh, this is so good. Look. Oh, man. I gotta get some diagonal action up in this bitch. Oh, yeah, dude. Okay, okay, okay. Now, it's not quite respecting something here. Like it's like actually queuing my inputs, right? Which is kind of weird. So I have to be careful during testing, and I have to also figure out how to smooth that over. But the response, the back and forth here, is actually really, really, really good. So I'm gonna lay some more enemies down, right? Three. And you notice that they're actually attacking in the order that I'm laying them down too. Okay. This is fucking great. This has been one of the biggest hurdles I've had to overcome, and I just did it. So we're gonna check in code before I get too excited. And it is late enough that I should consider calling it a night soon. Got some Stardew videos that I want to upload. I got this new sick split mechanical keyboard. Wanted to put it to good use. I think I've done that tonight. Shout out, like, subscribe, tell all your friends we're fucking doing Gamedev in C. So let's check it. Oh yeah, let's also do build stats. Really wasn't a lot of optimization tonight so much as actually making shit work and debugging a very subtle and nuanced bug. As you can see, we have not written a whole lot of code. We changed one line of Lua, we commented out a couple of dead lines, and we changed some values to 1 instead of -1. And we moved a couple lines of code to another location, and we set a value to 0. And that's programming, y'all. So I want to add this to my commit. Correct as fuck. Actually making that a commit message. You can't see it, but I'm going to show you. In fact, fixed timestamp. And it feels correct as fuck. Correct. 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 As fuck. Correct as fuck. All right. Shout outs to all my supporters. Shout outs to all my fans. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, share with all your friends. Like I said, we are doing fucking Gamedev and C. As you can see, I have Ledger live open right now. If you haven't been paying attention to the crypto market ever since the me full screen myself for this shit. If you haven't been paying attention to the crypto market since the fucking election, it's never too late. It's never too late, y'all. Cheers. Have a good night.
Mercy come and wash away what I done.
82 years old. One final fuck you